My name is John Washington. Many of you know me from watching Channel 11, harassing the City Council. I've had a lot of my articles published in the newspaper about various issues in Scottsdale. I've been doing this a long time. Before I get started, I've got a couple of little housekeeping matters. There are business cards on the table with my contact information. In fact, there should be enough that you can take a couple. And the most important things that we can do as citizens is circulate information to our friends and neighbors about the choices that are available to us as far as our elected representatives are concerned. So please feel free to take those. I've got plenty up here too if you want to take a couple on the way out. Secondly, there's something going on that's kind of troubling me that I think I need to address. I talked to Drew about this, and I think we've got an agreement that we're going to try to take care of this. There's information circulating by someone that is loosely associated with his campaign that I'm a Democrat. I want to put that rumor to rest right now. This person, I have a pretty good authority who it is, started this rumor. Someone who has a little difficulty making their points in direct discussion. They have a little difficulty winning arguments, and so they've gone back to what they think is a little easier way to do that, which is to undercut credibility. And I think that's not really a good thing because it creates a lot of confusion. We don't need any real confusion in this election, both on the local level and state level, federal level. In order to address this issue, I brought this morning a copy of my birth certificate. It shows that I was born a registered Republican. Seriously though, if I have my voter registration ID card with me, I've got a printout from the county voter registration database that show clearly that I'm a registered Republican. I hope we can put that issue to rest. And I think Drew would agree that it's more important to discuss the issues than it is the campaign to be in the window. I don't think he can do that, so that's a good thing. Now, as far as the issues that are important, you and I live in Scottsdale on purpose. I'll say that again. You and I live in Scottsdale on purpose. Now, there are some of us, some in this room, a few perhaps that were born here, a few people that kind of got lost, found themselves here. But even those few made a decision out of the state, made a choice to live here on purpose. As for me, I was born in Tennessee. I volunteered to come out here for pilot training. The Air Force was stationed at Midge Air Force Base. I graduated and stayed on in airspace management and aircrew training research, flight research. I got to know Arizona, the Valley, got to know Scottsdale. When I got off active duty, I decided to make this my home. I chose Scottsdale. I met a local gal. It's too bad she can't be here this morning. She's out of town right now, but I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to meet her sometime in the future. We chose downtown Scottsdale as our home. We have a 7-year-old daughter. We chose to raise her in downtown Scottsdale. My daughter's a 5th generation Scottsdale native. My wife's great-grandmother had a cotton farm at 60 acre tons. So we have a lot of connections and history in the area. I think I've got a pretty good sense of how we got here, what makes Scottsdale special. Number one issue for me is quality of life. We bandy that term around a lot. It's kind of a nebulous term. I think it's important to kind of define that in our discussions. Quality of life to me means parks, open space, good roads, low traffic, no noise, low crime. All of these things make up quality of life. And all of these things make Scottsdale a place where we have the amenities of a big city in a suburban, rural environment. You won't find that anywhere else in the valley. You find a few little isolated pockets here and there that have these things. From my house, I can walk to the library, one of the nicest ones in the valley, Center Library. I can walk to the Center for Performing Arts. That's the magic of my neighborhood. And I think that's kind of the magic of Scottsdale as a whole. I think we have to ask ourselves as we're having these discussions going forward, what is it that gives us that quality of life? I think there's really three things. Number one is good planning. We have one of the best general plans that's ever been written by a city. It was written by the citizens. It was ratified by the citizens. And that's what guides our planning and development decisions going forward. It provides us with a vision of what Scottsdale is going to be in the future, what we want it to be. And it has good allowances for reasonable growth and development going into the future that doesn't conflict or clash with the history of the community and what it is that makes it special to us, our quality of life. So, good planning is number one. Number two, in my opinion, is fiscal responsibility. We've done a pretty good job in the past managing our finances as a city. We started having some trouble about 10 years ago. We'll get into that in a minute. But in the past, historically, we've done a good job managing our finances. We have some help in that department because our quality of life, what attracted us to Scottsdale, and made us want to stay and live here, is also attractive to tourists. Tourism is Scottsdale's industry. Tourists come from outside Scottsdale, from outside Arizona, and many times from outside the United States to bring money into our economy, and that is absolutely vital. A tourist dollar is worth 3 of mine. If I spend $1 down at Sunflower Market, it's money that was earned here locally, and it sort of is in a big washing machine going around in our local economy. But tourism dollars come in from outside the economy, and they grow our economy. That's sort of, on a federal level, we might call that a balance of trade. We have a balance of trade with virtually every other community in the world where their residents come to visit us and spend our money. And I think it's important we recognize that and we protect it. We do what we can to protect the things that attract those folks to Scottsdale. So, quality of life, fiscal responsibility. The third thing, in my opinion, that really sets us apart is citizen involvement. Our city charter, which is sort of the Constitution of Scottsdale, and a general plan, in fact, also provide that the citizens run the show in Scottsdale. City government exists to serve the citizens. And that's a vital component. And we have some of the smartest city planners anywhere in the world in Scottsdale, and they're not necessarily the employees of the city. Folks that are involved in trying to protect their own neighborhoods and their own communities, and by extension all of Scottsdale, have invested a lot of themselves. They're very smart about the issues, and they're willing to stand up and participate in the process. And all we have to do is afford them an opportunity to do that. Now, good planning, fiscal responsibility, citizen involvement. We have all those things. Why am I running for mayor? Well, about 10 years ago, I lived in Peaceful Valley, downtown Scottsdale, for 15 years. Peaceful Valley is the first planned residential neighborhood inside the city limits of Scottsdale. The only neighborhood I'm aware of that's older than that is Patty Badnock's neighborhood, Camelback Park Estates, west side of Chaparral, across from Chaparral Suites. And it was built in 1951. They were actually outside the city limits at that time before they did that. So I sort of nuanced that to give me bragging rights and being in all this neighborhood in Scottsdale. But in my downtown neighborhood, about 10 years ago, we noticed some issues that were affecting our quality of life, whittling away at our quality of life a little bit at a time. And I decided to get involved. We started noticing that our great rules for planning and development were being bent. And then we were rewriting them. And then we didn't even go through that charade anymore. We just flat out started breaking them and ignoring them. And that was an issue for me, and that's really what got me involved in city stuff. I didn't move to Scottsdale because I wanted to get to know the mayor, because I wanted to get to know Bob, as nice a guy as he is. That wasn't my reason for moving to Scottsdale. It wasn't? It wasn't. You wouldn't think that today, but it wasn't. And I don't think many of us moved to Scottsdale because we wanted to get involved in city government. I think you sort of assume subconsciously that when you are attracted to an area like this, we've got a good city government. We don't need to be involved in city government. And so our greatest asset as a community is also our greatest weakness. That sort of passive approach to being involved and taking for granted the great things that we have. And I stopped taking that for granted about 10 years ago. Then I noticed that we were having some problems with our finances. 8 years ago, Jim Lane was complaining mightily about some of the financial policies of the Mayoral administration. And just so we're clear, I supported Jim Lane. I campaigned for Jim Lane, and therefore I talked a lot of people into voting for Jim Lane. And I'll get back to that in a minute. But I noticed that our financial policies were becoming problematic. Since that time, our city budget has grown, our city debt has grown, our city debt service, the amount of money that we pay on interest and principal for that debt has grown. We've got a significant deficit. All of these issues sound familiar because we're all complaining about them as Republicans. We're all complaining about these issues on a federal level and on a state level. And we don't realize that those things are going on right here in Scottsdale. And I'll wrap up. Thanks for the reminder. So, to sort of tie a knot or bow on this thing, I think we've got to get ourselves involved in the process. We've got to pay attention. We've got to select good elected representatives that represent us as citizens. And how do we do that? My final question to you, my final answer is you have to look at the track record. You're going to be blitzed with campaign mailers in the next 7 or 8 weeks when all the ballots come out. And every one of those candidates is going to sound just like me. And the reason they are, you read their literature, you say, wow, this sounds exactly like what Washington was talking about. It's because the Chamber of Commerce knows that that's what you want to hear. They know that that's what the candidates elected. They did it with the general plan mailer that they sent out. They did it in the last city election. They did it in the city election before that. Read the mailers, but don't take the word for it. Look at track record. And if you want to know track record, all you've got to do is go to one city council meeting. And you'll see me there, you'll see Schaffner there, you'll see Guy Phillips there, and the people that really care about their neighborhoods and their cities up there at the microphone, dodging the arrows of the council. And I do it personally every council meeting. You can't go to the meeting, just flip on TV. You might throw a beer can at it by the time you're done. But you'll see why we need to change the city. So, if you got any questions, contact me anytime. On that little card that's in front of you, my phone number's on the front, Jim Lane's phone number's on the back. Try both of them and see how it works out for you. I think we know how that's going to end up. So, thanks again. Contact me anytime, and I'm eager to take the questions when it comes time.